Anna, I think these days people really do have an association of Iceland being a place to experience music of all sorts of different genres. And from what I can see, notwithstanding the Sugar Cubes, initially it didn't really have that reputation. It was somewhere exotic that people knew about. Now I get more emails from people wanting to play at Airwaves than I do any other festival, just asking me for advice how to get on the bill. And it seems that Airwaves has given a real sort of impulse to setting up Iceland as a music destination. I mean, can you explain a bit what the origins were? Because it struck me as, essentially an exercise in filling seats on the transatlantic flights to begin with.
Yeah, there was a guy who was head of marketing at Iceland Air in US who got this idea. He was related to the Gus Gus guys who were really happening at the time. And they just had this mad idea, let's get this all these cool people from New York to come over to Iceland. And those were journalists, music journalists, record labels, publishing companies. And because of the kind of natural relationship that there was there between music and this marketing guy, there was an ambition that maybe something would come out of it if they started bringing the business over there. And but initially it was just a party, a Gus Gus party in an aeroplane hangar, and quite sort of low profile. But the party was such a good party that everybody wanted to come back. And so that was how it escalated over the next few years. And actually what happened in 2002, I think, was that Universal did a publishing deal with Sigur Rós, which was a big deal. Sigur Rós performed in a church, and you had all the Yankees going like, wow, that was an experience. And the publishing deal came out of that, and that, of course, put the festival on the map, because you have to have something that comes, to make it credible, it has to be about the music. It can't be about the seats in the aeroplane. But it suited the purpose of the airline to fill the seats. And I think from then on, it just went from strength to strength. It was primarily just US focused, and that was how I became involved in 2003 to build the brand in Europe. And now I think 25% of the people who come to the festival are from US, of the foreigners that come to the festival are from US, and majority of the others are from Europe. But now there are 5,500 tickets to the festival, or people that come to the festival, and half of them are foreigners now. So
I think what's interesting as well, obviously the music that's being programmed is a big part of bringing people in. And it has to be said that the festival was initiated by someone who happened to be a marketing director at Iceland Air, but was also a music fan and hung out with musicians. So it was very much done with a way of benefiting both parties. And I think that's an interesting element, because it can benefit both sides. I remember going to Airwaves a few years later. Not only had all the Iceland Air flights sold out, but all the other airlines that flew to Iceland on those dates had as well. And it's a pretty inhospitable place to be in October. It's not nice. I mean, other than seeing the Northern Lights.
For the local economy, it generates 4 million euros now, at a time when nobody used to visit Iceland 10 years ago. So it's a pretty big deal now. And when we took over the management, we started measuring how much the foreigners are spending there. And that's front page news now, the couple of years that we've done it. So that sort of creates a dialogue. But the best thing about this is that Iceland Air has been very stubborn about that this brand is their brand, and it locks them in this, because now they've invested so much in it, and it's their pride, and everybody wants this brand. The other airlines, they want this brand. So Iceland Air hangs on to it like, the most valuable thing. And but they license it out to others to promote it. So it becomes a real dialogue. And there are real benefits from an airline owning the brand, because then they market this everywhere where they have their branches.
What do you mean the PR benefits from this must be immense? I mean, not just that. I mean, the fact that people, when I first went to Iceland, someone said to me, no one just comes to Iceland once, and it's been true. I mean, I've been back half a dozen times, and it's really interesting to know Airwaves, how many people I've met there that have gone back, not just to Airwaves, but have gone back in the summer. I mean, are there examples of people that have been introduced to Iceland through the festival, or that at least that you're aware of, that have ended up going back or even moving to Iceland?
Yes, we've got examples of people who moved there, who bought their holiday flats there. There's immense benefits that will never be measured properly. But I think, this is one of the things when you have something. We are fortunate enough to have Björk and Sigur Rós and Sugar Cubes before that. So this is the chance for the pilgrims to come and discover Björkland and Sigur Rósland. So that it's not because of the airline or because of all the smaller bands. It's because of these bigger bands that people want to come and explore what's behind it. What kind of scene creates these kind of artists that I felt.
You say that, but then, if you take something like Mugasins Festival, where it's slightly different because it's not necessarily lots of foreigners coming, but certainly the foreign media you've had there. I mean, from the Guardian to Spiegel in Germany, even Bild-Zeitung, which is like the equivalent of the Sun over here. And, you've got these journalists sweeping out an old sort of fish warehouse the day before the festival, and then there's just this community festival with great Icelandic bands playing, but also the local men's choir, and the amount of PR that you generated with that is incredible. Because I really noticed as well that everyone gets a bit of it. So the guys running the local fishing tours have those journalists on their boats. You've got local visitor attractions that are included in the tour, because obviously there's no gigs during the daytime. I mean, did you ever manage to put a value on the type of media benefits generated through that?
No, and I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, that kind of figures are like poetry, like any other statistics. You give yourself some kind of conditions and create some figures, and it's a really creative exercise, and you can use it in. But a kind of media value, the media value that you get, you can feel it, and of course, when you have somebody like Múkisson, who is a really unique character, he sold, him alone, 30,000 records of his new album in Iceland last year. There are 300,000 people who live in Iceland. That's like 10% of the nation owns the album now, and it's still charting in Iceland, so he's still selling. So, but that's probably on the back of him hosting this festival for 10 years now, or eight or 9 years. He has gone to that level of, apart from being an amazing musician, but that has helped him promoting himself. The festival is a voluntary job. It's lots of love, lots of good music, and everything is free. But now he's kind of gained that reputation of being this real character of the Icelandic music scene. So it's benefited him in an indirect way, which is really nice to see now. The reason I started going there with journalists was that he was doing an international album in 2007, and he decided to break away from Accidental Records in the UK and do it himself. So it was a complete DIY exercise, and I was curious to see, based on what he'd done previously internationally, whether he would succeed to do that. That was the initial motivation to take journalists over there. Well, then he told me, well, we have a rule in the festival that nobody plays 2 years in a row. And I was just like, fuck off, Múkisson. I can't do this exercise without you performing there, because nobody will come without you, because he'd already done some international stuff and was known and had some reviews. And it was based on his reputation that I managed to take some journalists initially. And he sort of gave in and performed to kind of be of service to that publicity. Whether it did his international release any good, I don't know, but it certainly started building a reputation for this festival where we don't have to ask journalists now to come there. There is a queue of journalists that ask if they can be invited to this festival.
And what benefits has it had for the local community? Have different initiatives and different enterprises actually seen the benefit of that additional, not additional, just the coverage full stop? I mean, obviously a lot of these places traditionally relied on fishing, but when I was there, we were taken to a recording studio in a former fish oil tank. So bizarrely enough, it looked a bit like a Ducat, but used to have fish oil in it. And those, do you have any evidence of those businesses actually benefiting through the publicity?
I had one master's thesis written about this, and we discussed for a long time, how can you measure any economic benefits from a free festival? And the only thing that came to our mind was to ask the student to look at how much more alcohol was sold, because there's a monopoly stores in Iceland selling alcohol. And the measurement was that the sales went up 3 times from previous years. So we know for a fact that it has great economic benefits. But initially when I started going there, not an awful lot was open. People didn't realize this as a business opportunity. I think that is improving a little bit, and that the tourist companies are now offering a little bit more. But the charm of this festival as well is that it comes from the grassroots, and it comes from the passion of music, and everything else just adds onto it, and little by little people realize it. I don't think you should be over-organized when you do this. Just let it happen, go with the flow. If it sticks, then things will happen eventually, and it's much more charming.
Yeah, I think that is, that's definitely the case. I don't think I've ever been to a music festival where I've ended up with a broom in my hand 5 minutes after arriving. But the thing that did interest me was also that contact with the local people, where you are going to some incredible places, and that's something that I'd like to think that the nice people that took us on a boat tour, or people showing you around their studio, that there is some benefit through having all these people from outside actually checking out what they're doing. And I was just...
there are loads of benefits, but the strange thing is that it has taken a hell of a lot of dialogue to convince the tourist authorities to be part of it and invest in this and pay for the journalists to come there. Every single year from 2007, I had to have the same dialogue, convince them, let them know why it was beneficial.
This is going to be a very interesting thing from our roundtable discussion this afternoon.
But the good thing, and Múkisson and his dad and the people who'd been doing this for free for so many years, they were about to give up in 2010. So that was exactly the year when I took over the management of Iceland Airways. So I sent them a contract and said, lock the local authorities into this activity. Let them pay for whatever you need to have paid for, the sound system, the stage. Let them pay for several things that makes it easier for you, and try and lock it, and try and also gain the ownership of this, because they were met year after year with the kind of questions: why don't you get somebody who knows business to do this? Why don't you get somebody who can earn money off this to do this? And they were saying, because it's our gift to the local community. They got the most famous Icelandic musicians to come there. Everything from Jónsi and Sigur Rós to Gus Gus to everybody comes there, and they play for free. And finally, it was actually put in a contract with the local authorities. Múkisson called it the party conference, or the fun contract or something, because he couldn't do that kind of official stuff or bureaucratic stuff that I'm used to. But he made a lot of, and that created a big story as well. Because I think now that we've started collecting statistics and it becomes big news every time that we do it, gradually we are convincing the tourist authorities that they should work with us, and we are convincing the governmental people that they should invest in us as well, so there's a little bit more equality in our dialogue. That we are not just begging the tourist industry to work with us, but we are kind of in a position now to say we can create certain things that makes it credible and beneficial for you. And you just need to highlight what's there. I had this really fun conversation with a marketing person from a tourist office saying, I really like this contemporary festival called Dark Music Days, which happens end of January every year. It's composers in Iceland showcasing original Icelandic compositions, very progressive music, very niche. She said to me, only problem is, couldn't they make the music a little bit more accessible? And I was like, no, celebrate what's there and look at, we can make a collaboration with Huddersfield in the UK where they have 10,000 people coming to a festival. And then maybe if we make a collaboration, we could get access to a mailing list of 100,000 people because the internet allows us to be niche and nerds and find the other nerds that are interested in what we are interested in. It's not about mainstream anymore. It's about being niche and understanding how you embrace that and connect with the other people that like what you're doing.